There's so many things on my bucket list every day. It's ridiculous that we're only learning about our health and how our bodies work in our 50s, but Jesus, so are the doctors, so don't be getting embarrassed. We hadn't a clue either. We need to really positively discriminate towards women because women are really sort of starting 100 metres behind. The majority of medicine is based around a male model of disease, very specifically around a 70-kilo white man. We have 8 testosterone products for men on the PBS in Australia and none for women. We tried to get testosterone onto the PBS for women. They decided there wasn't enough evidence that low libido was a thing in women. But where do all the struggling penises go? I mean, you've got all these penises getting Viagra and they've nowhere to go. It's like they're lost in the wilderness.
The female pleasure gap.
The chasm.
Yeah, it is a chasm.
Yeah.
What an absolute banger of a chat. I actually can't believe this. Fuck it. There's liberation in giving women permission to say there are things I will no longer accept or do. So the three of us made those things into a list, and the list is quite long, so we made it into a podcast. I'm Jasmine Badir.
I'm Carly Pelham.
And I'm Jen Dobby.
And we will be debating the truths, tasks and topics impacting women and deciding which belong on the fuck it list. This time, the health gap is up for debate. On this episode, we dive into the medical mysteries that leave women stranded in poor health, research gaps, funding politics, the testosterone access battle, and why men still get more options than women for mood, energy, sex, and quality of life. Dr. Ceri brings the facts, the fire, and the real-world GP perspective on why women's health is still underfunded, under-researched, and undervalued, and how we can help to change all of that. This is our fuck it list. What's on yours? Welcome, Ceri.
Thank you very much for having me.
Very exciting that you're here, actually. And I'm going to take us just quickly off piste, which I didn't discuss with my two co-hosts here. But usually we go straight into the subject matter. But I would also just like to hear, aside from all of the issues that we just rattled off, is there anything this week that is in particular on your fuck it list?
There's so many things on my bucket list every day. I am really deep into younger women's health this week. I look after people from the cradle to the grave. So I was at the POTS conference in Adelaide last week, and that is really where clinicians and people with lived experience were meeting to discuss chronic complex illness that predominantly affects women and girls, and that's everything from POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobility, and this is hugely underdiagnosed, and these patients, like so many other things and conditions that predominantly or exclusively affect women and girls, are misdiagnosed and usually labelled as anxiety, or the new trendy word for hysterical is functional. So yeah, I'm angry about the underdiagnosis of POTS this week.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting. You've already listed 2 illnesses that 2 women in the room have.
Hello, 2 chronically
very
ill people over here.
Very overrepresented in the creative industries.
Yeah, wildly overrepresented in this room.
In this room and in the creative industries.
I think that's an amazing route in, right?
I know.
And one of the questions that we wanted to talk to you about, Ceri, is women are overrepresented, massively overrepresented when it comes to chronic illnesses. What I want to talk about is from a slightly different angle. Do you think that patients underestimate the difference that their GP can make when it comes for advocating with them for specialists? I ask, and I'll be super transparent with you, I ask because I've had 2, both female GPs who completely changed my life. So the first one helped me end 7 years of medical gaslighting. Small sidebar, but a good story. I had 7 years worth of folders and paper and loads, like this much worth of medical stuff. And she had a big old-fashioned desk, and she spread it out on her desk in front of her, and she looked at it all and she went, yeah, you got celiac disease. It literally took her about 3 seconds.
Just from the quantity of paper.
Big shout out, Dr. Margot Woods. No, it was, she just looked at all the markers and was like, inflamed this, sausage digits, arthritic toes, arthritic toes, various different things, and just decided the diagnosis. Then she became this massive advocate for me. My second GP, who's doing it now and told me about my chronic care plan and all of that. The reason I ask the question is I think that for a lot of people I've spoken to who do have chronic, and by chronic I mean ongoing health conditions, is they're always told this specialist route. And when you look things up online, it's like specialist this, specialist that, as opposed to a good GP will do so much of the groundwork with you and help you advocate for yourself. Do you think that patients are underestimating that relationship and the power of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole system underestimates the power of a specialist GP because we are specialists in whole person care.
Yeah.
People don't come in body parts, they our whole. And, if you think of us like a really complicated ecosystem, and we know like the ecosystem on the planet Earth, what's happening in Brazil affects the, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And I think we've really forgotten that in medicine. And this is something that probably impacts the female body more because we are more intricate and more sensitive to changes in our environment than the male version. And GPs, when they can sit down and when they're given time, and that's something that we're not given, and it's a real false economy when we look at how much we spend on health. When GPs have the time to sit down with patients and put all the pieces together, like spreading out your whole entire folder over a desk, you can see all those little bits and you can see how they work together. And while, there's things that my patients need that very much need a specialist, they might need to have a stress test with a cardiologist, or they might need to have a stent put in a vein with a vascular surgeon, or, they might need a coil put in an aneurysm by a neurosurgeon. They still need somebody to connect all of those things together. And that's really where GPs are amazing. And we're not just coughs and colds. We're not just somebody that writes the referral letter. We can put all those pieces together and support you to get a diagnosis, because often, when people have problems in multiple parts of their body, it's one condition running through the whole system. It's not 25 different conditions. And two, we can become really potent, really strong advocates for changes in the healthcare for you as an individual, but also to change healthcare as a system as a whole, which is, obviously something that I've become quite passionate about. So yeah, we're definitely underestimated by everybody. We're quite amazing.
Why do you think a lot of the times women will go to the doctors and they're told their symptoms are normal, but they don't really feel normal to them at all? Is that, you just kind of spoke about, the lack of time. Is it that? Is it more than that?
Oh yeah, it's so many things. I think the most critical reason is that we were only trained to treat men. So, especially for female doctors, when we see
My God, can we just take a pause there? Can you just repeat this again?
The majority of medicine is based around a male model of disease, very specifically around a 70-kilo white man. So, for people who are not white, for people who are not XY, medicine doesn't really fit that. So, we got a bit of training around fertility and infertility, how to get pregnant, how to not get pregnant. And then for pretty much everything else, women have been considered as small men. So, that's probably the biggest flaw in medicine.
I think that
makes sense.
Yeah, and Dr. She's Caroline Criado Perez, right? The Invisible, that book about the data. It's not that old. 5 years old, her book, maybe?
Yeah.
Absolutely blew so many people's mind. Like everything from crash test dummies are designed around a male body to the temperature in the fucking office being 21 degrees and that being freezing for us. Like women are just, from a data perspective, small men.
But also fascinating that the only focus has been around fertility, so I'm guessing the uterus. So, that's important, but everything else is kind of hard to worry about it, just like you're just a small man.
I found an amazing and very funny example. Dr. Amy McLennan, she's at University of Adelaide. She said that what you learn, what doctors learn about female health is everything that's covered by the bikini.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so we call it bikini medicine, and and because it does all relate back to the uterus, I guess, because women are designed, all species are designed to reproduce. That is, sort of our goal is to keep reproducing our genes. So we can't get away from that fact. But because women need to have these quite complex processes, like, they have to be able to ovulate, they have to be able to get pregnant, they have to grow a pregnancy. They are then the primary caregiver, whether it's through breastfeeding or just nurturing for a offspring that, may never leave home. Ideally, might leave home at around about 18, but, sometimes they stay for a lot longer. And 30.
Yeah. So you putting your children on notice, just quietly saying that out loud.
Yeah, no, I've got one of them out. The 9-year-old can stay for a bit longer. But so our physiology is very different to men who really do just need to be part of that conception process. Obviously, in modern society, we like them to hang around and be supportive and do lots of things, but they don't actually have to in terms of reproduction of the human species. So females have different connective tissue. We need to be stretchier to grow a developing human. We have to be able to deliver that human, which is obviously quite a scary process. We have a different immune system because our immune system has to adapt to growing something that's 50% foreign DNA. We have to have a nervous system that's got to be more sensitive to threat because we are often in a physical condition that doesn't mean we can run away so easily. And also there's, millennia of oppression against the female species that's probably banjaxed our nervous system as well. And then we've got those female hormones, that in our reproductive years are changing every single day. So men's hormones are very, very static across across the lifespan. Testosterone just gradually drops decade on decade for men, whereas women have really quite dramatic hormonal fluctuations in adolescence, then it's changing every day in your reproductive years, and then craziness again in perimenopause, and then off a cliff at menopause. And those hormones impact the nervous system, the immune system, and the connective tissue. So we are really what I would call a bioengineering feat. But as a result, we get a very different range of diseases that exclusively affect women, and also the diseases that affect everybody present quite differently in women and also need quite different treatments. So, the data gap is true, as you say, across everything from, where the seatbelt is positioned for a female body right through to, CPR dummies not having breasts on them. So women are less likely to get CPR in the community, to drugs. The majority of drugs I prescribe today have only been tried and tested on male animal lines.
So much I want to unpack.
I'm like, oh my God, this is literally...
There's an episode for everything.
I know, it was literally, I'm hearing mics dropping like every
literally.
3 seconds when you're speaking. Can you, and there's a couple of things I really want for you to unpack though, because I think a lot of us don't necessarily understand when we hear hormones, that it affects connective tissue. I think for a lot of people, the natural connection with hormones is moods, and then that's it. Can you talk to us a bit more about that? What hormones impact in our bodies?
So yes, a hormone is just a chemical messenger that takes information from one part of the body to another and tells the destination what to do and when to do it. And I suppose a lot of the time when we talk about hormones in, people of different genders is really talking about these sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone and testosterone. And all humans have these three hormones just in different amounts. In fact, a man has more estrogen than a postmenopausal female. So, they get literally all the toys.
Again,
yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Our incel community that's been following us lately would be totally outraged by the fact that
so they have more estrogen than I have.
More estrogen than you and me.
Yeah, but
maybe that's why they're getting so emotional in the comments.
So I don't know if facts have ever troubled them too much, though.
No, probably not.
No, the facts don't get in the way of anger. So hormones are really, these chemical messengers that are really, I think a lot of it is designed around this reproductive process, but every single cell in the human body has got receptors for estrogen, progesterone and testosterone, and our brain is packed with them, which is why, people will very much feel different at different times in the month, but also, or in perimenopause or postmenopause, but also, your joints, your bones, when women go through perimenopause, they're starting to lose bone density several years before their last menstrual period. The heart is really impacted by hormones. We see a range in heart rate variability across the menstrual cycle. We see a change in sort of how your blood vessels respond as people go through menopause. Blood pressure goes up. Our metabolism is intricately connected with our hormones. That's why you tend to eat a bit differently at different points of the cycle. But also we see this real metabolic shift in perimenopause and menopause that mean a lot of women do see this sort of change in weight around their middle. So it's so much more than just this menstrual health or mental health. It's really every single system.
Everything, including tendons, as I've just learned,
plantar
your
fasciitis.
Hypermobile friend, a perimenopausal hypermobile friend that has now another glute med tear and, chronic tendinopathies everywhere around my body, which I was told is now going to get worse because of my age and my hormonal status, basically. It's like, yay, what else? What else can we do?
Are there any hormones that cause more chaos over others or hormonal shifts?
Certainly, I think cortisol is probably at the top. So that cortisol plays a big role and then will impact on the other hormones. But they all talk to each other. So I think that, and we only have probably understand, 5 or 10% of this amazing orchestra, which is this whole hormonal chatter going around the body. Insulin is really important. Insulin is so much more than, just diabetes. Insulin is really it's a hormone that drives growth. It's a hormone that, maintains this healthy metabolism. Of the three sex hormones, I would say estrogen is probably still the most dominant. And we can see that in terms of, positive effects of estrogen. It's probably the one that's most heart protective and bone protective. It's the one that generally, makes people feel better in terms of raising dopamine. But then we've got progesterone, and progesterone has really been long regarded as just something that works in the uterus. But actually for a lot of women, it's a really important hormone for sleep and mood. There's even small studies using it in complex PTSD in both males and females, which is really interesting. And then there's testosterone. Now, testosterone is my favourite hormone because I would say it's my gateway hormone, because somebody asked me to prescribe testosterone. I hadn't a clue, and that set me off on this journey of discovery. And obviously it's the most dominant hormone for men. But in women as well, although we make all of our estrogen, most of our estrogen from testosterone on its own still has quite a lot of potent effects well beyond sex drive. We do have some evidence that it helps mood, helps bone density, maybe protects the heart. But, we still need a lot more evidence and a lot more research, which is largely lacking.
So basically what we've just learned is we know nothing, really.
Yeah.
So basically we're standing in front of this rainforest that we should probably walk into and take some explorers with us and find out what's going on with women's health. But we're like, literally, we're just looking at it right now, right? So we're not even a little bit in it. Strange analogy, but it kind of makes sense to me.
I love it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where we are in 20 years and what we know.
If you could change something right now or make a difference, what would that be for us to make progress?
Although we need to learn a lot more, we actually do have quite a lot of, data and knowledge that is there that just has been really hidden in the shadows. So, anytime I go to research, an opinion or something that I'm writing, you can actually find quite a lot of data that is sitting there. It's just hidden. So I would say the one thing that we really need to do is we need to train clinicians, especially medical professionals, how to treat 100% of the population, not 49%.
And why is this not happening right now?
I don't know. I think because these are big organisations, medical schools are bureaucratic, it's slow moving, but it baffles me that it still hasn't happened. This is a paradigm shift that is so overdue. We shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be integrated. This is heart disease. This is how it typically presents in men, and this is how it typically presents in women. Right across every single specialty. It's not just about the bikini. It's about hearts, it's about brains, about bones, about metabolism.
One of the things you said that was so interesting is we know now that a lot of medication is only tested on men. How do we as patients kind of self-advocate but without putting ourselves in danger? So, for example, I'm on a number of different medications for my chronic illness. I recently found out that one of the medications that one of my specialists wanted me to take has really limited, it's new, so it's really limited data. And because it's arthritis, the data is taken from men and older men. And so I said, I feel like until there are people who look like me involved in the data, I don't really want to take that medication. So then I don't know how smart that decision is. Like, my specialist is amazing. We're in consultation. She found something else for me to take. But what are safer, smarter ways that we can be going in as patients to have these conversations, without putting ourselves at risk? I'm not suggesting people don't take medication. What do we do instead? How do we advocate?
Yeah, I think it is really, really difficult. And it is really hard, even as a clinician, to try and review the data that we've been given, because a lot of it has been misrepresented and oversimplified as this is what's right for everybody, and that's clearly not true. The same drug is not necessarily good for somebody who's 12. For instance, a lot of drugs are never tried and tested in children, and we sort of retrofit those to kids because of difficulty with trials. But we also do that routinely with male to female. I think one thing is we need to invest more in properly trialling medication in female lines, and sort of animal cell lines and preclinical data, and that's only changed in the last 10 years. So before 2016, most drugs were only tested on male animal lines, although female humans were included in trials from 1994. I think we need to have an urgent review of the data at a system level, because I think it's actually really, really difficult for both clinicians at an individual level and even more so for patients at an individual level to really work out what's right for them. What we do have is we do have AI. We do have that ability to do a little bit more searching at scale. The difficulty is AI is still often using summarised data that's been misrepresented or oversimplified. So, it's not really searching at the proper level where you need to actually go through and read original papers at source and work out exactly how many women were in that study. So I think it's a real challenge in terms of drug safety. But it's a question I think you should always ask.
Everything that you've just said is totally outrageously bad already.
I know, and
right?
we're just sitting here
we're
being
just
yeah.
It's just kind of because that's how you've grown up. We've grown up this way.
And it's too, on the one hand, for those of us with lots of experience in the medical system, we're familiar with it, but also just as women, we're like, yeah, of course.
Of course, this is what we've all been treated.
I'd say 50% of my GP experiences growing up with going in and saying, I've got this weird pain, don't know where it's coming from. Most of the times it's anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety. And in particular, when I was really struggling with my joints, and I come from a family with lots of autoimmune diseases in it. And I was just like, yeah, just a little bit of less pressure on the joints, or maybe try some exercise. And I'm like, I am doing CrossFit 5 times a week, like literally. I'm probably over exercising here, but I don't know a single woman that hasn't had an experience, in particular also when it comes to endometriosis, like real problems where I was like, oh, well, take some painkillers and you'll be fine. And it does not seem to have changed significantly.
No.
It's not really getting significantly better.
And I think what's wild is, the reverse of that. We're all sitting here, you're saying repeated things that are frightening and wildly random. And we're all like, yeah, obviously, of course. But the flip of that is when we talk about these things, chronic pain or menopause, perimenopause, endometriosis, there is still like an ick factor and as if we're being weird and like super over the top and dramatic.
Why are you demanding all of this? Yes.
Yeah, like why do you need to talk about this? So it's still very, very like wild this end and wild this end. We're just sitting here having a conversation about reality. Dr. Ceri's just telling us the literal facts and science. We're saying this is our lived experience. It's like, honestly, it's a very, very everyday conversation, but it just isn't made to feel that way.
I always lose my shit entirely when I stumble across these numbers of how much money was invested into men's dick pills, Viagra, etc. And how much effort has gone into that. And imagine if men had period.
Actually, I want to ask you a question, Dr. Ceri. Is it true that we're seeing on socials at the moment, there was a male contraceptive pill and then they stopped because the boys were like, ooh, side effects? Is that actually the truth?
Oh, yeah, that is. So there's been multiple trials looking at how we could have a male contraceptive, but on the whole, most of the hormonal options have had too many side effects.
But when you say too many side effects... But they would cause maybe people to not feel so great. Maybe, awful things like losing their libido, or they might have risks like blood clot or stroke. So all of which are standard risks and side effects of female hormonal contraception. But I just wanted to ask the facts, because that's obviously the story that's like, well, it's the same as ours and they're being babies. And I was like, is it really though? Like, is it really, they were the same side effects that we have anyway?
Yeah, I think people, and when we look at hormonal contraception, it is great that women have that opportunity to control their fertility. And I wouldn't want anybody to, stop taking their pill, because getting pregnant when you don't want to get pregnant is a nightmare, especially as we're rolling back reproductive rights even in Australia. But that's a whole other conversation. But
that's another series.
But the reality is, the hormonal contraceptive pill is, has a lot of side effects. It often, including reduced libido, which I always say is probably one of the reasons it is so effective. And it does have some serious risks for some people. And we have some pills that are on the PBS in Australia, but for instance, the only pill that has got body identical estrogen in it is not on the PBS. Yeah. And I don't understand
why.
That company has not chosen, it's very expensive to get drugs onto the PBS, so there's quite a big cost, but the company that makes that pill hasn't made that a priority. Yet that's the pill that I would want my daughter on if she wanted an oral contraceptive. That's the pill I want my patients to go on, because we know that taking away somebody's natural estrogen is generally not great for their brain or their metabolism. So there's really, there's system issues that actually are very fixable. So one, sort of having that positive discrimination into funding, because at the minute it's 7% globally that goes into female-specific disease, of which...
How much?
7%.
I'm sorry, but we are getting to the stage now where we're going to have to stop after these mic drops, because that's just 7%.
Wow.
What? Okay, come again. We are only spending globally, 7% into...
female-specific conditions, of which 6% is on female-specific cancers. So 1% for endometriosis, perimenopause, menopause, PMDD, and POTS and everything
else. Why are
we
not rioting on the streets?
Because we're too poorly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, that's just your anxiety, love.
No, I'll do it. I'll take my drugs so that I have the energy to riot for this one. This I'll get out of bed for.
We're so heavily conditioned to accept what we're given, the scraps on the plate. That's,
I think the logic of it is so frightening. I was watching this thing on it yesterday where you you go, they're doing it for this particular reel, but they go, okay, men are fertile 100% of the time. Women are fertile an absolute max. Is it 5 days a month at absolute max? Right. Yeah. And so if you just put just those two facts together, obviously the man would be taking of course the man's taking the contraceptive pill.
Logically,
of course,
that seems to make sense.
Right. But no, because Owie, and he felt a bit crook after taking it. So
yes. But it was very easy to get the pill as a teenager, you know, at that stage of your life. But getting onto HRT was like pushing shit uphill. That was 5 years ago. So I don't know, let's do some blood tests. And I'm like, I think I researched that. I researched that blood tests don't do anything here. Besides, I had a hysterectomy. So, you know, I mean, what else do we need to talk about here, right?
Why is that? Because, sorry, my understanding is that when you go on HRT, if you're not on the pill, is that the first medication that you get?
The pill?
Yeah, that's what I was told. My friend told me that the pill is a form of HRT.
So that's a common myth, and often one that many doctors would still believe, is that for women in perimenopause, which is when you're still ovulating intermittently, but you've got a lot of symptoms, or a lot of symptoms related to these fluctuating or falling hormones, particularly in your brain. So there is still quite a strong medical belief that the pill is the best thing to put people on, and that is a form of HRT. But except for that one pill that I've mentioned that has body identical estrogen in it, all of the rest have synthetic estrogen, which doesn't get into the brain and do what you need it to do. And none of them have body identical progesterone, and they all reduce your testosterone. So, so the pill is very much not HRT, hormone replacement therapy, or menopause hormone therapy, or whatever you want to call it. People have different feelings about that, but the pill is great for contraception. It may, for some women, reduce their perimenopause symptoms, especially if your symptoms are more related to those fluctuating hormones. But for a lot of women, really, they need to be looking at another form of contraception and adding in body identical hormones that will get into their brain, that will support their bone health, that will protect their heart, and possibly even protect their brain. So what your friend was told is a common medical misbelief.
And can we talk a bit about that? Because you've mentioned quite a lot when you're talking about medication, body identical hormones and like biologic drugs. Can we talk about that as an advance? Because I do think they're relatively recent in terms of the way they've changed how they behave inside the body. So can we break that down a little bit, please?
Yeah, so when we're using hormone therapy for people in perimenopause and menopause, although you can also use it for premenstrual dysphoric disorder and perinatal and postnatal depression, we like to use the hormones that are chemically and structurally identical to your own hormones. So estradiol is the form of estrogen, progesterone and testosterone. So it's like the perfect key for the lock, rather than using what we traditionally would have used, which were synthetic hormones. So we used the horse's form of estrogen for a long time, which actually worked quite well, to be fair to it.
Is there a donkey form of estrogen?
Yeah, no, just horses. So just lots of pregnant mares.
So close.
So close. We don't get the feminist donkey in there.
It's a feminist horse. I'm sure horses are also feminist.
Yeah, I think there was
the family resemblance.
The poor horses.
But the question, did that come from, because why would we research and create a thing for women? Or like, what's the...
So they've been around for years. So those body identical hormones, like testosterone was identified, I think, about 80 years ago. So the body identical...
80?
80.
I'm losing my mind here today.
Yeah.
80 years ago.
Yeah.
So wait, why are they?
So the body identical estrogen has been around, I think, since the 80s. And the body identical progesterone's been around since at least the early 90s. But again, just drug manufacturing has focused more on synthetic hormones. And there's... money.
Why? Money.
So you can't patent a hormone. You can only patent the delivery system.
We are in late stage capitalism again.
So we're literally not building the right thing. The pharmaceutical manufacturers, drug manufacturers have literally not been building the right thing because you can't patent an actual hormone.
Correct. So you can patent the delivery system, but then that'll come off. And so it's a very short commercial investment. So that's why we haven't, for instance, like a lot of women really like to use their estrogen in the form of a patch. It's really easy. With your perimenopause brain fog, you don't need to remember to put the gel on every day.
I've got no, joking. I've got patches everywhere.
We've got gels and patches and we're using each other's and we're like, no, we're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people do lots of things to get by.
For the sake of medical clarity, we are not using each other's HRT.
I could be. I would. I would.
I
wouldn't judge, because to be honest, like the state of play is so bad. You know, the fact that nobody has created a new patch in over 20 years when this is probably one of the more effective ways of delivering estrogen. And we've got these patches that, if we can get them, because there's actually no global scalability in manufacturing patches, and we'll have 1 billion women in menopause in 2030, and they've just realised that.
Sorry, that's what we like to call a niche. That's what we call a niche.
So this is niche.
A billion, yeah, tiny.
Well, only 1
It's only a billion.
1 billion women.
I'm really enjoying this whole. I've got this thing in my head of like, there are moments when you realise your age, but with talking now, like in your 20s or whatever, and you're going out, you've got like a little baggie of pills or something. Now we're going out with like a little baggie of like Elle Macpherson's green supplements and some like HRT patches and like swapping them on street corners.
Yeah. Do you remember women's bathrooms? And you're like, anyone's got a tampon or whatever?
Yeah.
Maybe we should all be just dishing out.
Oh my God, when you go in, it'd be amazing. Go into the bathroom and be like, okay, ladies, I've got this and I need this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it'd be a great idea. And again, I can't obviously advocate that because it would break all sorts of medical legal rules.
You can't,
but we can.
But, needs must.
So are patches better than the gel?
For some people they are. I mean, I think it's really, I don't want to say horses for courses because that makes me feel bad about the poor horses again. But it really, like some people react to the alcohol and the gel. A lot of people struggle to absorb the gel. Some people really struggle to absorb the patches. Some people struggle to absorb both because nobody has innovated in this space in 25 years.
I wonder why that would be.
The only good thing is they've just discovered that estrogen can treat metastatic prostate cancer. So
here we go.
Oh, now there'll be loads of funding.
Oh my
Watch
God,
out,
it will be so much.
and they need twice the strength of patches that we use at the highest strength of patch of women. So the spare patches that we had
coming soon.
So
but they do need them because their pain threshold's lower. Stop being mean, okay?
Oh my God.
So they're going to steal the estrogen now.
Oh no.
So hold on to your patches, hide the patches.
Yeah.
No.
We need a patch mountain.
That's the best line we've had in a long time. Hold on to your patches.
Hold on to your patches.
Onto your patch.
My God.
To my understanding, there's different hormones that you can take for different areas of the body. And the hormones that you, for example, the gel that you may put on won't impact anything down there
in the bikini area.
In the bikini area.
In your fanny.
In your fanny. And it's a different fanny.
I know you've got an
medication.
American fanny, and the fanny in
It's Canadian.
It's Canadian.
Is a beaver tail.
Oh God, you have
beaver tail.
A what?
A beaver. Oh, beaver.
A beaver tail.
I can do save our
Sorry,
beavers.
we need to do this. So beaver tail, what are we having in Germany? What's the area being referred to?
Oh my God. What is it in Germany?
Is it a Stupentiger?
A Stubentiger.
A Stupentiger.
No, it's not that.
It's a feminist dog.
What are we talking about? Are you talking about flags?
The Lady Garden.
Yeah.
The Lady Garden.
That's
You're
the British.
So British.
Well, we've spoken a lot about Hampshire
What the fuck
today.
is the Lady
Big
Garden?
up to the home counties.
Yeah.
The Lady Garden.
It's the whole area is the Lady Garden.
I think we're pretty. I think Germans are very direct and just call the things what they
are.
There's no
what they
nicknames.
are.
But do you have a collective term? Because, technically it's the labia, the vulva, the vagina, the vestibule, the urethra.
My God, we need to do this.
The
whole
clitoris.
thing needs to be like a.
And go.
So that's why I've renamed it all fanny.
So I just need to. I will need to now go deep into my German brain while you guys keep talking, and I need to think about that, and I will come back to you.
If you can answer Carl's question.
Sorry, to answer the question about vaginal hormones, which is what they're called, but really they should be called fanny hormones, but doesn't sound too medical. So so for most women who are on systemic hormones, so gel patch, tablets, whatever, their vaginal symptoms will be effectively treated. But for about 20 to 30%, they also need to apply what we call topical hormones, and that's really just skin care for down there. And we know that the symptoms of loss of estrogen.
Sorry, we're still mildly giggling about fanny hormones. It sounds like a 1950s housewife.
It's very hard for me as a medical
and then
doctor
you
to
said
deal with all this
skincare
giggling.
down there, and we were just.
Can you stop? We're on a podcast here.
You're the
very
only
serious.
person not laughing at this.
Because I'm listening to the answer.
I'm sorry, Carrie.
I'm going to just talk to Carly while you two have a giggle.
And we'll all grow up.
We're very mature.
I'm the mature one here for a change.
For the first
You
time.
can have it, man.
So fanny hormones are really, really important. So there's a lot of data on how common symptoms are related to estrogen loss and also testosterone loss, and it's called genitourinary syndrome of the menopause, or GSM, which sounds like a German nightclub.
It's my kind of nightclub.
That's your kind of nightclub. So it affects up to maybe 90% of women by the time they hit 70, but less than 7% of women are treated.
And because no one tells you about this, and you have to all of a sudden you find out about it, and you're like, what?
I think it's just another one of those things that you just live with it, and then at some point.
Well, you don't see that your labia are shrinking.
Why don't you speak for yourself?
Please explain. Can someone
Vaginal
explain?
atrophy.
Yes, it's so...
Carly, while you're leaning over to do your
Houdini.
butthole bleaching, I'm sure you know it.
Seriously, no one tells you. Why is no one telling you this in school, that at some stage your lady bits are going to disappear? Your garden, your British lady garden is going to shrink into like a little tiny
Yard.
I think.
It's actually become a paved.
I think a paved
concreted
area.
over. Literally,
it's actually become concreted. I think that plus taxes. How much more useful would that be than fucking hot cross buns on your desk and recorder?
It is terrifying, and so because you don't know, and then you learn that once you have a concreted car park, you can't plant anything on it anymore.
No, you can bring it back.
You can bring it back, but
you can get a garden reno.
Can you?
Easy. Yeah, you
Garden
can definitely
reno.
bring it back. Yeah, so, but you want to use...
Get DIY SOS in.
Yeah, you want to get some really hunky gardeners in, preferably in the form of vaginal hormones. So using vaginal estrogen, vaginal DHEA. We've got great products in Australia. And obviously things like there's vaginal moisturisers, hyaluronic acid and lubricants if you're having sex. But the big thing that people don't realise about this whole vaginal thing is vaginas have been largely regarded just being important for sex, but they are critical for preventing urinary tract infections. So you have all these beautiful vaginal bacteria that really prevent bowel bacteria climbing around and climbing up into the urethra, causing recurrent UTIs, which probably kill.
Which happens a lot in elderly women, I hear, where they've got a lot of reoccurring UTIs, and then, a little bit of estrogen would have fixed that problem. I mean...
Yeah, I didn't realize that UTIs were a symptom. Recurring UTIs are a symptom of perimenopause.
And then that in our many conversations where I corner you and tell you everything about it.
Must be the one thing you missed.
Well, and you can actually die from a UTI.
Yeah, so we think about 2,000 women in Australia die a year, which is more people that die from ovarian
that
cancer.
Wipe the smile off your face, Jasmine.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and we've no policy.
Can
and
you tell us how that, what is the physicality of that? How do you die from a UTI?
So if you get a urinary tract infection, it can then get into your bloodstream if it gets quite significant. So that's more likely in somebody who's immunosuppressed. So that might not necessarily be somebody that's elderly. That could just be somebody, who's on treatment for MS, for instance. And, these are women, usually women, and they often have, multiple problems, and nobody ever thinks to treat their hormones. So women with MS are a really vulnerable group of people. But for our elderly women, we kind of forget about them, and they get the bare minimum of treatment. And so they get a UTI, gets into the bloodstream. That's called sepsis, and that sepsis can, in somebody who is, fragile, maybe it's not treated early enough, or maybe they just get sick very quickly. That can cause death.
Yeah, wow.
And so we think UTI sepsis probably causes about 20% of sepsis deaths. So it's not as bad as pneumonia, but it's certainly significant.
Is it more likely to get into your bloodstream if it's an asymptomatic UTI and you don't know you have one? It's being left? Or?
I don't think we would have the figures for that, right. But I think it's just in that kind of vulnerable body, which is usually an older person, but also anybody whose immune system is suppressed.
I also heard you can get vaginal testing strips on Amazon now. pH strips.
Yeah.
And that can help kind
of... Oh, yeah, for to check that your secretion... So your vaginal secretion should be acidic, which is another reason why you shouldn't use soap. So loads of people... people do all sorts of awful things to their vaginas, pervy things. But, there's shelves and shelves and shelves of vaginal douches. Like you've never... anybody ever seen a penis wash? No. So vaginas...
Can we discuss jade eggs, please?
Sorry. This again. Yes. Why do you think that is?
Oh, it's all marketing. I don't want to criticize people here in, marketing.
I know, please do.
No, that's fine. We're used to it.
Please do ourselves.
But, we've sold people so much crap, that really you never needed, from deodorant to, vaginal products that just actually disrupt the beautiful natural microbiome that is the lady garden. It's self-cleaning, it's a playpen, it delivers babies, it protects your bladder, it's a wonderful organ, it just doesn't need, some to smell of roses.
I got served an ad the other day for this product called Kitty Lips, which is a bleach. So people are bleaching both
labia?
Labia and bum holes.
Basically all the way through. So it's not just buttholes anymore. It's now all the whole garden.
Because we're basically telling women, as always, we're not good enough. Nothing is ever, we need to be unblemished everywhere, and we need to look like children at the best of times. And again, now we need to do... There's no... For our listeners, can someone invent a penis wash so we can now make it just as bad for men, make sure that they have their own products that can make them feel shameful about their bits?
I find it really interesting though, and I think one of the frighteningly successful parts of language and marketing is they still use the word bleach, but we've come to like believe randomly in our heads that like the bleach you use on your hair and on your head and the bleach you're being sold for this part of your body is different than the bleach you put down the toilet or the bleach you and it's not fucking different. It's all bleach.
All bleach.
Nobody goes like, oh, I'll just scrub the wall down. Hang on a minute, just pop that on my head
and into my lady gun.
Yeah, just pop it in the garden, full bleach. Like, what the fuck? At what point did anybody go, that seems like a wildly sensible idea?
Lady bits versus men's bits. I think this is important. So we've just said that our hormones changing drastically over our lifespan, that we go through many different iterations. They're changing on a daily basis. Everything changes all the time. Is there anything about men that changes, or is it just gets longer? Is that it?
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of men.
Hand gestures were good though. No, because you did the changes.
I mean, yeah, their connective tissue changes as well. Things can get a bit saggy down there. Penises can shrink, and testosterone does fall. So quite a large.
That's the only thing. That's not like any other.
They don't have a dramatic shift.
Not a dramatic shift that puts them at risk for anything when they get older in terms of their reproductive cycles.
Quite a significant number of men will be testosterone deficient by the time they're in their 50s. Okay. And most of them are not getting diagnosed either. So I would say poor sort of recognition of low testosterone is one area that there's almost gender equity. And actually, although we have 8 testosterone products for men on the PBS in Australia and none for women, it's still very difficult for those men to access it. They have to have crippling low testosterone to be able to get it on the PBS.
That's terrible too.
Yeah. And again, I think it all comes back to that money thing. So there's been a lot of fear for men to use testosterone. And while it's not always appropriate and it is important to do it through somebody that knows what they're doing, and we certainly don't want younger men using
when I look smaxers that are injecting mainlining testosterone together with some meth to be skinny. And
a lot of people be doing it to bulk up, and there's a lot of health risks with that kind of anabolic steroid use. But there are a lot of older men who probably would benefit from testosterone, especially low testosterone is really common in people who have diabetes, and often they're just told you're getting older and actually they need a bit of testosterone, and then they build muscle and they build brain in the same way that women do. So men have a lot more products on the PBS in terms of testosterone. We tried to get testosterone onto the PBS for women, even though we are one of 4 countries in the world that has a TGA approved testosterone product for women. It didn't get onto the PBS because they decided there wasn't enough evidence that low libido was a thing in women. There wasn't enough evidence for the safety of the testosterone product, wasn't enough evidence for the efficacy, even though that's already been established and accepted by the TGA. I think there was some potent voices in the room, one of whom was suggesting that female testosterone would be used sort of under the counter as gender affirming care. So there was a very vocal group who managed to get quite a lot of attention. And irrespective of your opinion about gender affirming care, I mean, I think it's terrible that was used, but equally this sort of female testosterone product is so weak you could not use it to transition from female to male unless you were using tons of the stuff. So again, we've got all of these agendas.
So someone thought that it would be terrible to have this for women because a tiny minority of vulnerable people that are already struggling, so therefore we're now just ruling it out for everyone.
And also sounds like the facts were ignored anyway, because what you said is that product's not suitable for that anyway.
Yeah. And they ignored all the evidence to show that, transdermal testosterone, which is testosterone through the skin, is effective for the treatment of underactive sexual desire, hypoactive sexual desire disorder. And they said it's not really a thing. And we don't really have any evidence. GPs couldn't possibly diagnose that when we diagnose a lot more complex things. And there's plenty of evidence.
Couldn't possibly feels like to me that female libido doesn't matter.
I would say that would be because the health minister could have stepped in and overruled that decision, and he decided not to.
Yeah, and it's that thing, that language, right? It's not really a thing. Because again, women are a tiny, tiny niche minority of the population.
I don't know if you've seen the current Labour ad on social media with them talking about erectile dysfunction for men. That hasn't been on your Instagram feed this week. Yet. So it's quite a few of the male Labour politicians talking about being hard.
What?
Yeah, you might want to check it out.
No. Why are they talking about erectile dysfunction?
Well, they were encouraging men to seek advice for, health problems, which is really important because a lot of men don't seek. But I would say this wasn't the best guided campaign. But
what I love though is that that of course is a problem, and we should have MPs talking about that. But ours isn't even a thing; doesn't even fucking exist.
So where's the female MPs talking about dry vaginas, where those struggling penises are going to go? So
because
we've got all
that's
this,
not real. Obviously.
But where do all the struggling penises go? I mean, you've got all these penises getting Viagra, and they've nowhere to go. It's like they're lost in the wilderness.
That's
you
a
just
song.
just
Where
a
do all the
walking.
struggling
Amazing.
penises
It's
go?
very you know who can sing it? Scott Griftaway and the Feminist Donkeys. That's going to be their first number one hit.
But I mean, that again is where the money flows. So so anywhere where you can have these quick consults and sell some quick drugs, that's why that exists. But erectile dysfunction is really important because it's a marker of cardiovascular disease, because the tiny blood vessels that are in the penis often get narrowed first. So men may often present with erectile problems, but actually it's a key thing GPs know then to screen them for cardiovascular disease. But we don't ask women about their orgasms. And the clitoris is just the original penis, it's just unfolded. And so when women are experiencing reduced orgasm, reduced sexual responsiveness, we should be really looking at their blood pressure, looking at their cholesterol, as well as thinking about giving them hormonal treatments. So again, like everybody knows, erectile dysfunction equals heart disease or is a risk factor for heart disease. But we don't ask, we're not going to the women like, how's your sex life? We're not routinely asking that. And it's a really important marker.
The female pleasure gap is just,
a chasm.
It is a chasm.
So many of those facts are just literally mind-blowing. And you think the conversation for me comes back to like that whole of person care conversation. What would it be useful to you if women going into our GPs stopped apologising for or not saying out loud? Like, what do we need to get better at talking about as patients coming in to see our GPs?
So I think it's a really good idea to be prepared. So like talking about going in with your folder of stuff, make a list. Your GP should be able to cope with the list, put it down in the desk so that they can have a look at it. And so being prepared, I think it's absolutely reasonable to have done your research. I don't think you should ever apologise for Googling symptoms or looking stuff up. If your doctor can't cope with that, then that's their problem, not your problem. If you are wondering if it's a hormonal problem like perimenopause or PMDD, there's some really good resources on there that you can really, read up and try and see if what they're saying does, resonates with you. If you're a wee bit more educated, it does mean that you're a bit more empowered and able to hold your own in what is a really bad power dynamic in terms of a doctor-patient experience. Bring a friend, I think, is a big thing. So, bring somebody with you who will help you advocate for yourself, because there's a real power.
Never thought of it.
Yeah. So men bring their, if they're in a heteronormative relationship, bring their partners all the time.
Is it just, I don't think men are bringing their partners. I think their partners are the reason they're there.
That's true. That's probably fair. That is probably fair.
Because we're in no world, even when I was going through the shittest of the shit, and I actually thought, before I got diagnosed, I actually thought I was going to die. Like, I legitimately, bits of my body were falling off. Like, teeth were falling out. I lost like 15 kilos. I thought I was going to die. And at no point did it occur to me, hey, maybe you should take someone else with you and witness this.
I was literally, when you said that, I was looking at you because I would never.
Now I feel wildly stupid for not having considered that. Because
nobody does it. No woman does it. But we're terrified as doctors if we see two people come in, you're like, oh my God, they've brought in the big guns.
The mob.
Yeah. And I think it's great because we do have that position of power, and we shouldn't be intimidated if we know what we're talking about, if we're able to listen to somebody. If you're there and you're sick, if you're not well, which is, usually the reason why people are coming to the doctors, it means that you're not always firing on all cylinders. Yeah. So you're trying to remember all the things. And so bringing a list is good, bringing a friend to really change that dynamic. And, just being prepared to say, really, it's okay not to understand what the doctor's saying. Ask them to explain it again, and if you feel that you are walking away and you haven't been heard, absolutely always get a second, third, fourth opinion.
What should we be doing as women in general, aside from me now wanting to riot on the streets and, with a pussy hat on and literally...
And sharing our patches.
What do we need to demand? Who do we need to talk to?
Yeah, so I think there's so much that you can do as an individual and also as a collective. So I think always, leaning into your community to support the people that you're around, checking in the females in your social group, family group are okay. Healthy Hormones, our community is fabulous because we've got that, huge, we've got about 7,000 members in there of people talking to each other, supporting each other, going, hey, I've had this, is this weird? And you get that lovely walking the walk together and, normalising symptoms and, then you're not embarrassed about it because you realise like everybody's got a dry vagina and it's fine. And so that gives you confidence in yourself. So it's really important that we get educated. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're only learning about, our health and how our bodies work in our 50s, but Jesus, so are the doctors, so don't be getting embarrassed. We hadn't a clue either. So learn about yourself, find a community where you can feel that connection and support, and that really allows you to advocate for yourself, and then you have the knowledge to do the right things. And a lot of it is the basic, it's eat real food, exercise regularly, whatever you're doing, try and do a bit more, hang out with people that you like, get rid of the dicks, you know, clear out the crap from your life, and remember to breathe. Breathing's really, really important, hugely underrated. You know, we can all do it. It's free. Just do it a bit better. And
I'm taking a deep breath as you're saying that, reminding myself.
Yeah.
I'm doing my full
So sleep, breathe. I mean, it's a wee bit of eat, pray, love, you know, that kind of thing, and stop people pleasing, and really stop apologising. You know, the world should be apologising to women.
So we should assemble, empower each other.
Yeah. We ride at dawn.
We ride at dawn. We're getting a bit noisier, but also how do we get more funding into women's health?
I mean, the reality is that women make the majority of household purchases. So we need to really demonstrate that women are this huge economic force. So one, keeping women in work is great for the Australian economy. You know, women retiring earlier, you know, reducing their hours costs the Australian economy about 17 billion a year in lost earnings and super. So there is a huge national benefit to looking after women in midlife. I was quite surprised when we were trying to get sponsors for So Hot Right Now. I was like, everybody will be falling over themselves to support us. And, you know, the majority of doors were just no, you know, we're not interested. And I'm like, there's 2,500 women are going to be in the Opera House listening. They are like, these are the people that spend money in our economy. And there was still that really, no, it's not really important. And I still cannot understand that even if you don't care about women or you don't care about women's health, how you can't see the economic value in targeting that audience appropriately. And
this comes up time and time again, basically, and that's one of the reasons also why we're doing this podcast, because there is a need for that. We need to get more of the stories out there, but we also need to get women the ammunition to be able to feel empowered to say these things out loud and actually demand to be reflected in everything that we're producing, in particular in this creative industry that we are in media and marketing, which is it's mind blowing that where we are at with that.
Yeah, so I think wherever industry you're in, I think really leaning into supporting the women who are, you know, of a certain age, because, you know, we are such powerful leaders, we have such wisdom. I mean, that's just how society's set up, and it's really trying to really support those people in whatever way you can do it. And it's, you know, it's going to be different in whatever industry that you're in. We need to really positively discriminate towards women, because women are really sort of starting 100 metres behind, you know, a man with the same experience. And, you know, so in like whether it's venture capital funding, you know, but the problem is a lot of the time these are dominated by a certain type of people, and so the money flows into a certain industry which doesn't actually serve 100% of the population.
I always think that a big part of this conversation is the ick, right? Like, if we women, you've said it yourself so many times today, like, we have the ick talking about our own health issues ourselves. So for me, one of the first things I've done, both in raising my daughter and talking about this stuff, but also with my girlfriends talking about it, is just fully banning my own ick. Like, I was raised to not talk about anything.
Oh, yeah. It was always, don't be a hypochondriac.
Right. And I mean, particularly the stuff that impacts you during menopause, anything like in the bikini area, my God, you're not talking about that. That's vulgar. Is it like, that's how I was raised. And so I've gone, yeah, but shit, if I don't talk about that, and I'm one of those, I mean, I think there's quite a lot of us in our generation, but, you know, I started having that conversation with my mum and asking her what her symptoms were, and talking about her, you know, how did she go during pregnancy and what were her symptoms of perimenopause. And she'd never had that conversation before.
No.
Because her mum definitely didn't ask her, and you simply didn't have those conversations.
I think we'll be the first generation that will be asking that to our moms.
But I also think that that's a massive thing that we can do. The simple thing, like, we've talked about it a lot. We don't think on this podcast and in this room that we're being in any way like revolutionary or like we're just having normal conversations that we have every day.
We talk about this all the time.
We literally made a list of this shit. We did it all the time. We were like, this sounds interesting, let's make a pod. But the reaction that we're getting is as though we're having these really
extreme conversations
and wild conversations. And so that shows us there's a massive job to be done, even just talking to our mates around, what are you going through? What's going on with your body? What does normal feel like and look like for you? And removing our own ick from it.
And the shame that comes with it, right?
Right, and we can't expect to do that in a room of potential investors or whatever if we can't even talk to our own girlfriends about it.
Yeah, talk to your girlfriends. It's really good advice, I think. What happens in exercise in the entire fitness industry as well was always like women training like little like men, just like men. And it turns out, you know, if there's ice bath and sauna,
all of that, but there's two sides on all those things.
Yeah.
Like, so the people will still argue the ice baths are good for women. No, they're not. So you get experts on either side.
I actually don't think has been enough information, again, around how we should be, what should we be doing, etc. Because, it's just basically everything is just like made around men, basically. It's the same thing. I think a lot of women like 50 and older have grown up in that era of don't get bulky and be, the peak of skinny culture, basically, as well. Please make yourself smaller. There's a big cohort that is now struggling with osteoporosis, and bone density. And instead of just doing more cardio and remaining tiny, what you actually obviously should be doing is building some strength, and, then you don't break your hip later, and that's the end. So, I think that the whole narrative shift of training with a weight vest or doing any of that doesn't necessarily seems to be the worst kind of things in the world. I always find it really weird when someone tells me that is the only thing that you should be doing, and now do it all the time. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't work for my body because I'm also not like everyone else. I think you just got to probably just have a think about it.
I think the big thing is there's no one size fits all in any health journey, and that's the same for men or for women. But like definitely muscle is your organ of longevity. So building muscle basically is what is going to keep you from falling when you're older. Like muscle produces all these amazing chemicals called myokines, which stimulate new brain growth, which stimulate new heart growth, and actually go around fighting off these inflammatory cytokines that often exist in, for instance, chronic illness, but also are produced as a result of aging. So, and it also acts like a glucose sink, so it keeps your metabolism nice and healthy. So building muscle is probably one of the most critical things, and we're moving with the GLP-1s. While they have a wonderful place and they definitely have multiple health benefits, we're seeing a lot of people dramatically losing weight and they're losing muscle at the same time, and we're sort of heading back into that awful heroin chic skinny that you can see all over celebrities at the minute, and that's really terrible, really bad for women.
The world is not in a good place, in particular for women. We are supposed to be skinny, super skinny,
easier
tiny, invisible, easier to control. And I'm personally really terrified of the push now coming to Australia, surfacing the conversation around abortion rights again, right? How terrifying is this? I actually couldn't believe that this is now coming here and it's a thing again. But I think as women, we really got to band together now and make sure that we're not ending up in the same position as the US.
Yeah, I think that's really important because a lot of people just stay quiet. They think their voice doesn't matter. And I think this is true about multiple things, whether it's women's health or women's rights. But there's a wonderful stat that I think you just need 3.5% of people to change, and then you'll shift the entire narrative. So it's such a small number of people that really need to get vocal. It doesn't need to be 50%, it only needs to be 3.5%. So I think it's, again, very empowering to think that even small numbers of people can really shift the direction of a country. And that's really important as we sort of see Australia following America in so many ways, whether it's international policy or, how they treat women. So I think that's critical, that your voice really matters.
3.5%. So why don't we shift the 3.5% into a conversation around closing the female health gap, right? I mean, that's a really good wrap up for this. That's a campaign name right there. That's a really good wrap up for this episode.
My passion business is Healthy Hormones. So that's our online community, which now has 11,000 members. About 4,000 of those are clinicians. So there are, despite what people might feel, there's a load of clinicians out there who really want to do better for women's health. So we're all learning together, sharing our knowledge, because a lot of information really just exists in the human mind. It's not in AI yet. So what we really wanted to do was to bring together doctors from multiple specialties, clinicians from multiple disciplines, from physiotherapy to naturopaths, so that we can really learn together and drive forward this healthcare model that serves everybody well, rather than just a select few. It's phenomenal to see what that collaboration can do. It's, curiosity, it's compassion, it's community on the clinician side, and also for our patients, our public members. They can come on and they can ask questions that they don't want to go back and pay, another consultation fee. Yeah. You can be anywhere in the world and ask a question here. It's medically moderated, but you can get support from other people if it's, not such a complex question. We've got loads of resources. Amazing. We do regular lives. So it's the only app of its kind in the world. It's founded by women, so people are generally not interested in it because it's female founded and female founders get ignored. But what we've done, nobody else has done in any other walk of medicine. So our plan is to radicalise female health and give it, as much attention, research, education as has existed for male health.
My God, you're amazing.
On Fridays.
I'm pretty sure you're amazing any day. We are so lucky that we got to have this chat with you today. What an absolute banger of a chat. Great. I actually can't believe this. So and much. I actually think we don't even need to discuss whether the female health gap needs to be on the list. It is so in the bin. So in the bin. Yeah. Like, literally. Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. Loved it.
Awesome.
Hey loves, good news is you can submit your own fuck it list items. Just drop them in the comments on our socials or email us at hello@fuckitlist.com.au. If they're particularly spicy, we'll even keep them anonymous for you.